So I want to thank everybody first off for coming in tonight, because I want to be time myself. This has been really what I've hoped for, and I think what we all hope for. And just the fact that we don't have our phones, we're actually listening to each other and hearing stories about each other has just been such a joy, and so that makes me happy. My name is Jane Fischer. I am class of 2001, so the second most senior here. And I'll be serious for a second. To me, this is the face of leadership. Leadership can be ugly. Leadership can feel like you can feel like you've been knocked down. You have people standing over you, waiting for you to do the next thing. It can be a little awkward. You can look a little weird. You can think about, what am I doing down here and how am I going to get up? That's me. So pretty. In the middle, and that was actually, that shot was taken 2 weeks ago at our improv-a-thon. Yes, the improv-a-thon, where we did 49 and a half hours straight of improv comedy, and where I do improv comedy at Comedy Sports Buffalo, on the corner of Main and Harlem in Snyder, New York. Come see us. And I've been doing improv comedy for about 16 years now. For the first 15 years, was part of the Unexpected Guests in Jamestown, and we did our last show just almost about a year ago now. And so I've been with Comedy Sports in the last year. 15 years ago or so was when the Whose Line Is It Anyway American version started to be popular. And who's seen it? And we were sitting around one night at karaoke at Mr. D's, which was before Forte, so that's how long ago it was. And we were sitting around at karaoke like you do, and watching one of the shows, and said, there should be an improv group in Jamestown. Beat. We should start one in Jamestown. So leadership lesson number 1, don't wait for other people to do it. If you can do it, do it. Well, we didn't have improv training other than, hey, that's funny, and listen to me, yuck, yuck, yuck. So just so happened, serendipity called, and the Bunbury Theater was happening at the time, and a group of folks had come down, and one of the folks that had been involved was a guy named Eric Hansmith, who I also played with at Comedy Sports now, Circle Gets a Square, and Eric had just moved to Jamestown and offered to become our coach, and he had been doing Comedy Sports for a number of years, and so that's how actually I learned on the Comedy Sports model. It's very fortuitous. And we did improv. Once a week we got together and rehearsed. Yes, you do rehearse improv. You rehearse the sort of the structure of the games that you play. You rehearse the rules, you practice the rules, you have group norms. You don't rehearse the content, but yes, it is important to actually practice improv. I'm actually missing a Comedy Sports practice tonight. I told them that because this is my first slide, it's an excused absence, so it's okay, because I'm actually doing improv in spirit. One of the things that happened, though, after we went about 4 years into it, was I started to realize that some things were kind of changing in the way that I was working, the way that I was thinking, the way that I was relating to others. And I also recognized that coming out of these Monday practices, felt like I had just been to the gym without the pesky thing of going to the gym. That I felt a little bit flushed, I was energized, but it was like, oh, this feels great. Because I had just laughed for 2 hours, physical comedy also, with people who were friends. And that laughter and that sort of mental activity as well really became something that I am proudly and completely a complete nerd about. And I'm very happy to be a big improv nerd. Started to realize some of these things. That the traits of a good improviser are not, improv is not people just getting up on a stage and telling a one-line, telling jokes. Improv and stand-up are very different. Have a number of people throughout the years with the Unexpected Guests, and even in time with Comedy Sports, will come up and say, I want to join your improv group, I'm a stand-up, I like stand-up comedy. That's great. I want to fly a plane because I drove a fire truck once. They're both vehicles, but they're very, very different. Skill sets are different that are called upon. Relationships, planning, all these different things are happening between the two. Yes, they're both comedy, hopefully, but they're very, very different. Improv is about creating in the moment, reacting in the moment at the top of your intelligence. It's about accepting, reacting, and acting forward. Traits of a good improviser is we have to listen to others. We can't be in our head off stage going, oh, I'm going to drop the greatest line because what they just said was amazing. Here, I'm going to come with this and I'm going to make this. Meanwhile, a scene has happened and I've missed it because I've been off stage planning on what amazing thing I'm going to do instead of what's happening out here. We agree and support. Yes, and. You know, two words about improv, you know, yes, and. Yes, and is to accept, acknowledge, say, this is real, this just happened, this exists. And then the and is the building on it. So you accept and you combine. The yes and is a wonderful thing in conflict resolution, for example. As a leader, I've called upon yes and a number of times. To simply have somebody come into your office in crisis, either through tears or through anger, either at me or at somebody else, to say, la la la, this isn't happening, this isn't real, if I shut the door, you don't exist, if I don't look at you, if I turn on my computer, you're not here. You have to acknowledge the uncomfortable in front of you, and the and is building on it and making something useful from it. You respect your partner. You do everything that you can to make them look good. It's not about you out there on the stage, it's about their partner, and about the scene, and about what is being created. When you take the attention off of yourself and put it onto others, really wonderful things can happen. A good improviser also respects their partner and believes in working together. You recognize that it's not, again, about yourself. It's about what's happening on the stage. You don't feel failure, because in 16 years of doing improv, I have dropped a lot of scenes and a lot of lines that have not gone over well at all. I have done some things that were just crickets. I've done some things that have been great laughs. And I've done things where I've been out there and completely frozen, or called somebody by a wrong name establishing the scene, etc. You fail all the time, and you have to be okay with it. You also exude a good energy. You have to be positive. Coming into rehearsals, when you're trying to create all of these wonderful things with your teammates, you have to have a certain sense of positivity around you, and you have to be comfortable being silly. The mug I drink out of on a regular basis is a quote mug from the great Amy Poehler, who was my spirit animal. Even I want to be her when I grow up, even though she's 2 months younger than me. So I don't know how that's going to happen, but I will be her someday. And the mug says, there's power in looking silly and not caring that you do. And so that's my life. So once I realized this through some of the improv practice, I thought, I wonder if anybody else knows this. I wonder if anybody else has realized how some of these lessons of improv can go off the stage and really affect your life and your work. I wonder if anybody knows this. Google, thousands. Thousands of people know this. Books have been written on it, seminars have been given on it, there's all sorts of things going on. There's a whole network called the Applied Improvisation Network. So I hooked myself up to them, and so for the last 10 years or so I've been involved with the Applied Improv Network. And taking this love of this thing that I do for fun, and also created a business out of it and created some work out of it. And these are my loves. Now along the way, some people were saying to me when I first started, because we are, again, one of the first sort of comedy groups in Jamestown, I actually had people with whom I work either directly or indirectly say, you know, people aren't going to take you seriously if you do this. Your credibility is going to be shot. You don't look very professional up there doing refer to first line. And I internalized it, and I thought, wow, they're right. So this thing that I really love and that's really sort of lights me up, I can't do it. I can't do them both. Then I found thousands of people out there who created a network and said, I bet these people tell me I can do it. And so I reframed my perspective and I thought, how might I? How might I take this love and this discovery that I have and this energy that I know is true for me, and I've seen it in others with the workshops we did do, how might we reframe the perspective of all work has to be very linear and very serious, and if you crack a smile, you're not taking this seriously, and smiling does not equal professionalism. And if you make a pun, forget about it. You make a pun in a meeting, you lose your degree, you're on suspension, and I'm pretty sure they're going to come and take your cat. So all of these different things happen. So I reframed my perspective about how might I really think about this in a new way. We talked about Maslow earlier. Carrie brought up Maslow. Look at circle bits and other squares. See how connections work? Aren't they fun? Almost all creativity involves purposeful play. That is what I do once a week. That is what we all do. The lessons that we heard tonight about being on the farm and playing sports and all of these wonderful things, the dancing with your wife, this purposeful play. Play has a purpose. Play can be wonderful and just sort of catch me, but play can also be, remember the time when you're little, and let's pretend the tree is a rocket ship, and you're going to be the first space commander, and over there, that's lava. The how might it, and what might be, and what else is this? When else can we use this in life? All the time. We have this budget deficit. How might we turn this around? The service that we offer, how might we alter it in order to do something else? That spirit of how might we, that playfulness, that creativity has to come from somewhere. We have Office Depot and Staples and Office Max and Dunder Mifflin and all these places that will tell you and sell you all these planners that show you how to get more organized and more efficient, and there's all sorts of manuals in terms of how to do these things linear. There is no app for being spontaneous. You know what the app is? What I do every Monday night. You learn how to practice some of these things that don't come in a planner, that you can't just sort of download for an app for greater efficiency. There is a way to learn to defer judgment, to be spontaneous, to accept offers and build on offers, to combine new things, to redefine failure, to expand your performance range. Don't just simply say, oh, I'm not an idea person, I'm a detail person. I don't want to do the ideas, I want to do this part. Expand your performance range. Don't play the same character. Be an idea person. If you're an idea person and really struggle with implementation, by the way, you can't just simply say, well, that's not me, I'm not going to do that. No, expand your performance range. Learn how to do that. Learn how to be uncomfortable. Learn how to deal with dislocation. There's no way to practice that until places like this. This is a Creative Problem Solving Institute. I hooked up with them in that I yes-anded myself, and when I found the Applied Improv Network, I also yes-anded and said, how might I take it even further? So happened that an improv partner had gone through the Creativity and Change Leadership Program at the International Center for Studies in Creativity, right up the road above state, where creative problem solving is born, by the way. There's a whole mecca of creativity just an hour through it. And I hooked myself up with them, and I've been a leader and presenter at the Creative Problem Solving Institute for the last 5 years, and it is a time where hundreds of people from literally around the world get together and engage in creative thinking for about 6 days. It's amazing. And it's not the least bit fun, by the way. But it's a lot of how might we's and a lot of new ways of thinking. There's design thinking, there's applied improvisation, there's creative problem solving tools and techniques. There's all these different ways to learn how to be creative. You're not born creative or not. You're not just simply saying not creative, not it. You can learn how to be deliberately creative. And why does that matter? People don't want to follow a leader into the future. They want to co-create it. So by learning and practicing these ways of deliberate creativity and improvisational thinking and mindsets, we can create a space, we can create a system by which we can have co-creation that works in a way that is forward-moving, deliberate, intentional, but also improvisational and co-creational. So, as I leave you, we start every improv show for the last 16 years with the unexpected guest to comedy sports and any other group that I've stepped on the stage with. We always start with the beginning saying, players, are you ready, before you take the stage. But even before we do that, we're backstage and we tap each other on the back and say, got your back, got your back, got your back. So I challenge you with 2 different things tonight. Think about in what ways you can literally let people know that you have their back as they move forward with the uncomfortable, as they move forward with discovering their strengths, finding their life story, being human and dealing with all of the things of leading every day. Relationships, building your relationships, dealing with dislocation and relocation, and finding your comfort level. How can you let somebody know that you have their back when they're doing that for themselves or you're doing it together? And then I ask you, players, are you ready?